Thank you very much. This, for me, is a journey that has come full circle, and I must tell you at the outset how relieved and privileged I am to be here at the University of Iowa. It occurred to me that if I were to be making the same kind of a speech at Ohio State, I'd have to speak much more slowly and use shorter words for their graduates. I also want the graduating class to know that I'm really here just to warm up the audience for your student speaker, Thomas Heineman, who's graduating with a 4.0 in chemistry. I am absolutely in awe of that, and this morning I tried to think of what connections we may have. Obviously, we share a first name, Tom. He has a 4.0. If I had stayed on the track that I started on at the University of Iowa, I would have had a 4.0, but it would have been cumulative. 1 point for every 4 years that I was here. I wish all of you could have my perspective here today, to be standing on the stage and look out across these graduates and see their expressions of anticipation, and then look out across the parents and family members who are gathered here and see the sense of relief on their faces. So I hope all of you, before this day is out, will take a moment with your parents or your grandparents and other family members who are here and express your gratitude to them. Yesterday I drove across the state of Iowa, north to south. I spent time here not just as a student, but learning the rigors of hard work in northern Iowa when I was 17 working for a construction company, and I wanted to revisit those places that had been so formative in my life. And I find, as I always do when I drive across Iowa in the springtime, that it is a pilgrimage of renewal. As you drive through the tidy villages and towns and cities, see all the people working together for the common good. You see the great rich farmland that is ready for the spring planting. You see a landscape now of wind power in northern Iowa preparing for the future. And when I arrived on the campus, of course, the walkways were filled with graduating students and their families celebrating this signal event in your lives. And it was, for me, at once nourishing, emotionally and intellectually and spiritually. So let me begin by saying to the class of 2010, congratulations. You're well ahead of me. I want you to pause and savor the idea that you are well ahead of me. You have a real degree earned over 4 years. Mine is honorary. However, I will cherish it as I do my brief and very uneven time as a student here more than a half century ago. That was, for me, another enduring reminder of the lessons of failure. I came to the banks of the Iowa River as a young man of considerable high school accomplishment and great expectations of my family and community. But shortly, I adopted new rules of life. I thought that beer was food. The dates that I cared most about didn't come from the courses in Western civilization, but instead from sorority row. Weekends, I believe, should begin sometime around Thursday morning. Woody Allen says that 90% of life is showing up. When it came to morning classes, I was in the other 10%. 9 months after arriving here, sinking below sea level, I made a retreat to South Dakota, determined to return to Iowa and to get it right. But South Dakota, it turns out, was not rehab. I continued my errant ways, eventually dropping out of school altogether, befuddling my friends and my parents, wandering across that bleak landscape reserved for the aimless and the delusional. Gratefully, some friends intervened and forced me to confront the realities of my life. I changed my ways almost instantly and made a speedy recovery to good grades, accomplishment, and my earlier promise. I was so grateful to the friend who began the intervention. I decided she should never leave my side, and this summer we will have been married 48 years. I didn't make it back to Iowa as a student, but I kept many of the friends from my 1 year here, and of course, I continue to take pride in the great university and all that it means to this state and to this country, then, now, and forevermore. Most of all, I learned from that raucous year that failure can be an option if you confront it honestly and if you act urgently and fearlessly to correct your role, the flawed judgment, or the shameful behavior. Moreover, I learned that failure can be a useful companion, a kind of metaphorical ankle bracelet that convicts have to wear in halfway houses, always there to remind you that there is a difference between right and wrong, and that at one point you made the wrong choices. I've worn that year at Iowa every day for more than half a century. It has been a hugely important part of whatever success I have enjoyed, because I learned early on how swiftly casual mistakes can lead to larger consequences, how being the life of the party may be entertaining the night before, but it doesn't get you much the morning after. With the time that you spend in any institution of higher learning is a gift without parallel in life, and it is not to be abused. You are invited when you're a student at any university to spend your days expanding your horizon and deepening your understanding of whatever subject catches your fancy. There's no heavy lifting, and on weekends you can cheer the team colors, enjoy a beverage or two, and explore new social relationships. Now, that life for you is about to come to an end, and you're being told that the university has prepared you for the real world, whatever that is. Well, I have some surprising news for you. As your parents and older friends will confirm, the best preparation for the real world is not the University of Iowa, or high school, or summer jobs. It turns out the best preparation for the real world is junior high. For the rest of your life, you'll experience the same petty jealousies, adolescent behavior, hurt feelings, cliques, suck-ups, dorks, dweebs, phonies, and blowhards as you did in junior high. You may even experience again some of the self-doubt that we all suffered through in adolescence. Or despite your best efforts, you'll discover that you don't always succeed in every personal and professional enterprise that you undertake. You will not be unique. Life is like that. The true test will be how you deal with disappointment or failure. It is what you learn and how you emerge from those experiences, from setbacks, that will define your essential character. These are lessons for nations as well as for individuals. As a society recently, the American people have been tested anew, and they have learned as a result of the seismic shifts in our economic and political landscape, we simply cannot take the good life for granted in our society. My friend, the late and exceptionally gifted humor columnist Art Buchwald, often concluded his commencement addresses by saying to classes such as this, "We have given you a perfect world, don't screw it up." That was always good for a laugh, whatever the circumstances at the time. It is a little difficult for me to issue the same order to the class of 2010, even in jest, especially this class at the University of Iowa. Think of all that you've been through: a historic and damaging flood of lasting consequences, a tornado. Many of you have friends who are serving right now in 2 wars that have been going on for 7 years in Afghanistan and Iraq. You've experienced everything but pestilence, and you are leaving the sanctuary of learning and innocence in a season of uncertainty and anxiety. Daily, there are reminders that the economic model that defined your early lives was deeply flawed. For many of you, the economic conditions of your family now and your own expectations of that economy have shifted profoundly in the 4 or 6 years that you have been here. It's not a perfect world beyond economic conditions, of course. America does remain engaged in 2 wars with no tidy end in sight. Rogue nations with nuclear weapons or the potential for acquiring them show no signs of good behavior. We were reminded just 2 weeks ago of the real meaning of asymmetrical warfare when a young Muslim from a family of wealth and privilege, trained in Pakistan, which is our putative ally, parked a car bomb in Times Square. Gratefully, it was an amateurish effort, but it was a terrifying moment for all of us who live in Manhattan, and I dare say for the rest of the country. In Iraq and in Afghanistan, at this hour, as you celebrate your accomplishments, thousands of your fellow Americans, your age, all volunteers, most of them from working class backgrounds without college degrees, are at this moment locking and loading weapons and putting on Kevlar vests. They're heading out into alien territory to engage an enemy sworn to destroy all that we believe in the West. To engage an enemy sworn to destroy all that we believe in, and an enemy determined to seek sanctuary in sacred places, or if necessary, to kill their fellow members of a faith to advance their maniacal goals. Iowa families of those in uniform, not too far from here, are sitting right now by the telephone hoping it will not ring, or they dread the arrival of a military vehicle in their driveway, delivering unbearable news from far-off places of their children or brothers or sisters or wives in harm's way. We must not forget them on this day or any other. The vital signs of your Mother Earth, have taken a turn for the worse, and the prescribed treatment is complex and controversial. How we fuel our voracious appetite for energy, for consumer, industrial, and technological electrical power, for vehicular power, without exacerbating global climate change, is an urgent question for your time. In short, how we live on a smaller planet with many more people is a reality that will test your generation for the rest of your lives. What more could you ask? We may not have given you a perfect world, but we have given you exhilarating opportunities for leaving a lasting legacy as a generation that is fearless and imaginative, tireless and selfless in pursuit of solution to these monumental problems. It won't be easy, but I promise you it will be rewarding in ways that a Wall Street bonus or even a shot on American Idol cannot compete with. These are the tests that imprint generations for the long curve of history's judgment. Those who take an inventory of our time 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now will not measure the success of our time by the failure or the positive actions of President Obama alone. We're all in the cockpit now, and we cannot escape that judgment by evasion. So where to begin? That's a decision that each of you is individually, dare I say it, collectively prepared to make. It will be most rewarded if it is rooted in a personal passion and carried out with purpose, even if the first steps are small. You have an assortment of nimble and powerful tools that can assist you. The internet, with its almost limitless universe of information and capacity for research and communication and commerce, played out on ever smaller devices across an ever wider spectrum of choices. But those are tools. They're not oracles. They complement your mind and your heart, but they do not replace them. You will not solve global warming by hitting the delete button. You'll not eliminate reckless avarice by hitting backspace. You'll not make society more just by cutting and pasting. It will do us little good to wire the world if we short-circuit our souls. And you should not surrender the essence of the human experience to 146 characters on Twitter or a Facebook page, however cleverly designed it may appear to be. No text message will ever replace the first kiss. No keyboard will ever take the place of the embrace of someone you love, nor will it spell out for you just what love is, that irreplaceable condition of the human experience. I'm often asked who are the most memorable people that I have interviewed over the years. Most inquisitors expect me to say the Kennedys, or Ronald Reagan, or Gorbachev, or Mandela, or Dr. King, or Oprah, Tina Fey, Will Ferrell, LeBron, Bruce Springsteen, Jay-Z. But the fact is, the people that linger most for me do not have marquee names. The people I remember the most are the idealistic young, the courageous and gifted members of your age group who are in a long march to ease human suffering. They put their boots on the ground. They spend their nights in scary places. They put their hands in the dirt. They are never more alive than when they are doing this work, not for riches or personal glory, but because it is simply the right thing to do. Those kinds of commitments need not consume your entire life, but they will enrich it if you make a conscientious effort to dedicate some of your time on this precious planet to helping your fellow men and women who are not as fortunate as all of you are. For a time, on occasions such as this, I would conclude by saying, it's easy to make a buck. It's tough to make a difference. Then a University of Virginia father, a Wall Street executive, caught up with me and said, I'd like to rewrite that, Brokaw. It's tough to make a buck, but if you make a lot of bucks, you can make a hell of a difference. You decide what works best for you, but make a difference. Neither your parents, nor this university, nor I can make those decisions for you. There is no GPS system for a life of meaning. You can begin to make a difference tomorrow morning by arising and committing yourself to a new world which is shaped by asking a new question. Not, what do I want, but what do I need? How do I make choices for tomorrow and not just for today? How do I understand that we're all in this together? And how do I become colorblind as I look at my fellow men and women around the world? If my fellow Americans are in uniform and in harm's way, is it too much to ask, how do I enlist as a citizen at home and report for front lines on the duty of keeping the American dream aligned with the authentic values of this republic? Rule of law, pluralism, economic opportunity, compassion in our international relations. May you all leave here and get rich, rich in the selfless dedication that advances that dream and the future of all life on this precious planet. I stand aside now so you can get on with the exciting times you're so magnificently prepared to undertake and to experience. Go forth and become the next greatest generation. Go forth and love each other. Go Hawks, and Godspeed.